Alright guys, welcome to another update video for the upcoming Wrathstone patch, and we have got another set of huge racial changes coming in yet again. So these aren't going to be as impactful as the first set, but Zenimax has made some pretty big adjustments to what they gave us from the first set here. So we're going to see a few changes for sure, and not only that, but we've seen a few changes elsewhere that we're going to talk about. No pun intended. So the first big change that I want to mention for this patch is the Shadow Mundus is now going to deal 13% additional critical damage, up from 9%, but this will still not affect critical healing. That's a pretty big buff to the Shadow Mundus. A lot of people have trouble justifying running the Shadow Mundus over another Mundus buff because especially the Penetration Mundus is usually a better option. So I like this change because it makes the Shadow Mundus a little bit better of an option, especially when you have that higher crit rate. And in my opinion, Shadow has kind of been underperforming this past patch or two. Another huge change, guys. Time Stop's base cost has been increased to 8,100 from 4,590. We have a lot of people spamming Time Stop, and now they're going to make it very expensive. So essentially, all I really see from this is just a reduction in mass AoE stunning, and I think that's good just for kind of Zerg combat. AoE stunning, I know from a 1vx perspective, people want to have that big AoE stun, but, you know, it can be used by the Zerg too, and if you have 5 guys spamming Time Stop on you, well, that's not a good time at all, so there you go. Okay, guys, so taking a look at these racial passives, we have got some pretty big changes here. So starting with High Elf, the spell recharge has been changed to now restore our lowest maximum resource rather than the highest. And the value has also been increased from 645 to 525. So this essentially makes the High Elf sustain passive a back passive for your utility bar. If you're a mag build, it's going to give you stam sustain, and if you're a stam build, it's going to give you mag sustain. So this change, I think Zenimax was just trying to make High Elf a little bit less powerful of a magicka damage dealer compared to the other counterparts that were there. And I think it was on the quite powerful side, especially getting the all-around sustain and damage that it did. Now, Argonian, guys, actually got buffed. Argonian got buffed. It got nerfed the first racial change, and now it got buffed. So it's still going to be a little bit weaker than the live patch, but it did get buffed. So Life Mender is now 6% healing, up from 4%. So yeah, this is going to be back to where it was, which is really nice. And then the Potion Restore is now 4,000 instead of 3,620. So this is a little bit less than the live server still, but it is better than the original nerf. So Argonian getting a little bit of love in this PTS iteration. Now the Wood Elf, guys, we had talked about it in the last set of racial patch notes. The Wood Elf had gotten a 20% movement speed bonus. This has been changed down to 10% when you dodge roll, but you also get a bonus to your physical and spell penetration for the duration. This is very interesting. I like this. The 20% movement speed on roll that stacks with everything was way too much, so it had to be brought down. It got brought down to 10%, so I thought it would be brought down to 10 or 12. So there we go. But now it's granting physical and spell penetration of 1,500. This is like a 3 to 4% damage increase right here. That's pretty beefy, to be perfectly honest, to get that damage increase off a roll. Makes Wood Elf very, very attractive, but it does not make it the ridiculously OP speed stacker that it was going to be. So I think that, honestly, I'm really liking Wood Elf. I'm really tempted to go Wood Elf Templar next patch, especially for my Stamplar. It looks really, really nice. But I like this change a lot. I think that Wood Elf is not going to be broken OP anymore, and that's very important. Now, taking a look at the next class, we've got Breton, and Breton had got an interesting change as well. Their spell resistance granted by the spell attunement effect will now be doubled when they are afflicted with burning, chilled, or concussed. Very interesting effect. I really like this. It makes them specifically good yet again against incoming magicka attacks because these are all magicka negative effects, the burning, chilled, concussed, and it doubles the resistance, giving Breton actually a really huge amount of spell resist. I think the base resist on this was increased to around 3,000 spell resist. So you get a huge amount of spell resistance when this goes off. Very, very interesting for the Breton. Now, Dark Elf, guys. Lots of love given to Dark Elf. I actually love what they did here. Resist Flame, they removed the 500 max health that we used to have, and they gave us 500 more stats to our stamina and magicka. Dark Elf looking like such a fantastic damage dealer for both Magicka and Stamina. And of course, your Dark Elf is going to be hybrid #1 for next patch. Definitely. The Imperial, the Red Diamond, has been reworked yet again so that when we deal direct damage, we now restore 333 health, Magicka, and Stamina. And it's on a 5-second cooldown. Big change to Red Diamond. It's now going to restore everything and not be a focus on returning just health and being a healing passive. 333 Magicka and Stamina every 5 seconds. That's a pretty decent amount of sustain, I'm not going to lie. That's like 150 Magicka and Stamina recovery. Pretty decent, and a big change for the Imperial, I think, here. And then, of course, we get the reduced cost to block and bash. So, yeah, I like this change for Imperial. It takes it less out of that just kind of self-healing route and gives it a little bit more flexibility to go a few different routes with a Stamina or Magicka damage dealer. So that's an interesting new change, definitely different from what we saw in the previous iteration here. Now, Khajiit got a few changes, guys. The Lunar Blessing bonus has been increased to 825 max health, Magicka, Stamina, so a nice increase in the max stat on Khajiit. The Robust Sustain for your Magicka and Stamina recovery has been increased to 85 from 75, so we get a little bit more sustain there as well. And then finally, the Feline Ambush has been nerfed. And this is because on the PTS, people were able to sneak around on a Khajiit right in front of people, right underneath people, and you couldn't detect them. This will make the minimum detection radius not 0, so people will be able to still detect a Khajiit. So I really like this change, kind of bringing in the broken aspect of Khajiit, like Wood Elf kind of had a broken part to it, while giving them a nice little buff as well. I like this. Khajiit, yet again, is going to be a very attractive hybrid race with the dual Magicka Stamina crit that it's getting next patch as well. Alright guys, so taking a look at the Orc, Brawny is now going to give us 2,000 maximum stamina, so we are gaining 1,500 stamina on the Orc. Compared to the live server, you might even see an increase in max stam on your Orc compared to live. So a really nice change to the max stat for Orc there. Unflinching Rage is now going to give us the max HP, so we're going up by another 500 HP compared to the last PTS. And compared to live, you'll probably see your HP go down just a little bit, but it's now going to heal you for 600 damage when you deal damage with a weapon on a 4-second cooldown. And it's no longer going to give the stamina and the health recovery. So Orc kind of lost its sustain passive and went back to its more bulky max stat passive. It's still, of course, going to have the weapon damage passive that it got in the first PTS iteration. So really nice change here, I think, for Orc, especially because they're going to be getting a little bit of healing power too. Interesting to see Orc kind of take over that role from Imperial now, getting kind of that big bulk max stat, but having a little bit more of that healing focus. And yeah, Imperial's kind of losing that and going a little bit more of the sustain route. And then Red Guard, guys. Red Guard is getting martial training, added a bonus that reduces the effectiveness of snares applied to you by 15%. This is pretty much for PvP. In PvE, this won't have a huge impact, but in PvP, it will. Red Guard's getting a lot of interesting changes to it in this upcoming patch. I mean, we have reduced cost of their weapon abilities for Magicka Stamina weapons, and now the martial training. Red Guard will be a very interesting race choice for the future. I'm interested to see how this will play out. This is a really cool passive. A Red Guard Warden is going to have 30% snare immunity. Very interesting. So there you go. The champion system is also getting changed. Updated the calculation with your maximum health, Magicka, Stamina interacting with modifiers to better reflect the 20% increase from the stats from your first 100 points spent into each tree of the champion points. If you guys didn't know, you spend those 100 points, you get a 20% bonus to your stats, depending on what color the tree is in. And you can get that bonus to all your stats once you have 300 total champion points and you put them all in. So previously, this would only apply to your base stats, your attributes, your enchants, and your 2, 3, 4 pieces on item sets. And after this change, it will apply to all sources of flat stats. I actually didn't know this. I thought that this already applied to everything, but Zenimax says it didn't, and they're now making this a consistent value. What you guys can expect from this change is all of your maximum stats on average should increase. So regardless of these racial changes here that have kind of come in, everyone should see a bulk in max stat increase just in general coming into this patch. So just giving you guys a little bit of heads up about that. Another huge change, guys. Curse Eater has been changed slash nerfed. And we all knew that Curse Eater would get nerfed, I think. When the set was first introduced, it was looking way too good for PvP. So it has been changed so that when we use a direct healing ability on a target, we remove 3 negative effects from them. If the negative effect was removed this way, it will also restore 600 magicka, and this can occur once every 8 seconds. This is honestly still going to be the BIS set for condition removal in PvP. It's still going to be the best. Curse Eater is going to outperform any other set that removes condition. Even the Weird Tree, Curse Eater will be removing conditions a little bit quicker than it will. And then, of course, Curse Eater will be insane for Mag Sustain. I like this change a lot because it actually requires you to cast your heal to remove the negative effect as well. So this compared to Weird Tree now, Weird Tree will remove negative effects off any magicka ability, whereas Curse Eater will be the better set to kind of do this with. However, you have to use a heal to do it. So I like this change. And then, of course, the lower cooldown at 8 seconds is also really nice. So, yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. I think this is going to bring this set in line and not make it ridiculously overpowered for PvP. The Icy Conjurer was also changed to deal the DPS over 8 seconds rather than 4. So, that was a good change because the tooltip on this, I think, was insanely high. It was like 24 to 27k. Yeah. This needed to be a little bit longer because people were taking like huge, like 6k dots. So I like this change. I think this is a good one yet again. It doesn't lower the overall DPS of the set, but makes it less of an intense amount of damage to take in such a short period of time. And a big change to the Warband set that's coming in with the new patch. It will now grant us our bonus critical chance stacks whenever we deal any critical damage, rather than when we deal critical damage with our light or heavies. Big change to this set. It honestly would have been pretty bad. Now it'll probably be pretty good, maybe even decent for PvP. We'll have to see how this set performs. Alright guys, so that is the patch notes and the updates that we have for the upcoming Wrathstone patch. This PTS iteration, we might see more from Zenimax. I'm not really sure what we'll see before this comes out. I mean, Zenimax is going to be releasing Wrathstone pretty soon, so I hope that there aren't too many big changes still coming, but a lot of big changes to the races yet again. But it looks like Zenimax did listen to a lot of the feedback that the community had about a lot of issue races, as well as some issue sets like Curse Eater. So I really like that Zenimax is actively taking that feedback in, and we're seeing it on these PTS iterations. Honestly, this is not really something we have seen in the past from Zenimax, so a really great step, I think, for them to be doing this. Yeah, really like it. Really like these changes. Looking forward to Wrathstone coming out, and looking forward to these changes hitting the live server. I really like some of these racial changes, and I can't wait to play some hybrid builds with these new racial changes. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you guys want to check out some live gameplay from me, you can check out my Twitch channel. A link to that bad boy, of course, is in the description. And if you guys want to send in footage to be featured in a top 5 PvP commentary, or send in a build to be featured on the channel, you can send it to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. And then finally, guys, we are sponsored by What the Fast. They are a VPN for gamers. They give me better ping to my favorite games like ESO. If you guys get crappy ping and you want to try them out, they are free to try. No credit card to sign up. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good night, everybody.